Being a few. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you today. What a beautiful, beautiful day it is. Oh my goodness. I hope everyone's got a chance to get outdoors. It's just lovely. I just got back in from walking my little pup. So here we go. Let's start it off. I would love to call to order the June 8th meeting of the Monona Community Media Committee. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which would have been April, right?
Yeah. You didn't have me.
Yeah, looks like May. Yeah.
Actually, but the date on the minutes I have is May 11.
Yep.
Yep. You are accurate on that. I see that May 11th date as well. Will, am I mistaken? I had a feeling that we did not meet in May, or maybe I'm just completely wrong about that.
I think we weren't going to, but we did, and then we ended up having a pretty good meeting.
That's right. That's right. We had a
And the meeting before that in April, we didn't have a quorum, so we just kind of like.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Okay, so in that case, is there a motion to approve the minutes of our May meeting?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as written for May 11th, 2023 for the Community Media Committee.
Perfect. Is there a second?
We're going to have to put Elizabeth Cross on this committee. She seconds everything. She's great.
All you gotta do is say second, anybody.
I think Amanda did. I don't know if we heard her.
Excellent. Amanda, are there any changes or updates, any edits whatsoever? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. The motion passes. Excellent. Thank you, Will, as always, for putting those together. Wonderful. All right. So, Will, you've got the roll call and kind of skipped over that. I don't believe, do we have any appearances tonight? Anyone in the audience? Don't see anybody?
Not that I see. Nobody extra here.
All right. Well, in that case, let's just get straight on to unfinished business, talking about the Monona Go app, and then the My Monona newsletter, and then the city's website, mymonona.com. Let's start with the Monona Go video app. And what Will and I had thought we might talk about is just giving a rundown of the promotion that's still ongoing or anything that may have changed since we last got together. Will, would you like to start?
Sure. I mean, I think we have polished it up. Lois provided a graphic that we put on the digital displays in the city hall lobby and the library and in the commons area of the the commons area of the high school, which was a catchier, cooler ad than I put together. In fact, I really liked her logo that she did for Monona Go. That was really cool. I wish I would have thought of having her do something before I made the graphic for the logo, although perhaps it would have been too small, but it's still cool. She wrote Monona. I don't know if you saw it, right? She wrote Monona, and then with the two O's, one of the O's was like an O, but darker G, and the other O was the same kind of color. So inside Monona was Go. And it was pretty clever and pretty cool. I like that part of it. And everything else, I think we're still doing. I was still in the community calendar, adding it at the end, talking about download it. I've also started adding the newsletter. You can subscribe to the newsletter by going to My Monona, go to the bottom of the page, click on e-newsletter and subscribe. So I've been adding that into the calendar again. So I think for Monona Go, it's just a consistent kind of word of mouth and trying to keep that graphic on the screens to at least scroll through. I think, a Facebook post every 10 days or something in some fashion, or perhaps maybe more often as we post new videos to it or something.
I've received a lot of very positive attention about the app. great stuff. People are enjoying it a lot. So it's wonderful. And I also really liked Lois's graphic was great.
Yeah,
And I have
I
sort
had
of-
to look up FOMO. I couldn't remember, and then when I looked it up, I went, "Oh yeah, fear of missing out." That's right.
I've sort of gotten out of the habit of posting to Facebook. I sometimes scroll through it, but I just don't post. So I did post to my personal and to my city council Facebook page.
I did as well.
App, yeah, it's really helpful to have that graphic. Did anyone else do any social media posts at all? If you haven't, please go ahead. If you are a social media person, the graphic that Lois made is perfectly sized. It'll fit really nicely. So just please do that. And you know, if you wanted to share a couple of reasons why you use the app, it'd be great. All right. Okie doke. So what about the My Monona newsletter? We talked about getting some statistics, but between meetings, Amanda and Anita and Will and I just traded some emails, and Amanda had pointed out that the last time we did statistics, it was in September. So it would just make sense if we waited until September of this year for a real, you know, apples to apples comparison of any changes in those in usership, which Will, Anita, and I completely agreed with. Was there anything more that you'd like to share? I'll let you take it away, ladies.
From what I did see when I went into the constant contact account and just kind of looked at a few things, we still have like crazy good open rates at over 70%. I send a lot of emails as part of my day-to-day job, like 15 to 20% is good there. So that's shows you how engaged the audience is. Also, we had a 7% increase in the subscription, like the list we send to since September of last year. So I thought that was pretty positive to see as well.
In the I wouldn't have known, you know, what the average open rate is. So that's, yeah, that's amazing. Great stuff.
Yes, I think we are actually, last I looked, and maybe this isn't the most recent, I think we're outpacing the Parks and Rec Department's newsletter as far as open rate.
Is that the goal? I'm just kidding, but I'm curious.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of is. I mean, when we created the newsletter, it was like I looked at their newsletter and it was like 3,000 people. I'm like, how they got 3,000 people? And I know it's because they got all the fun stuff. It's all about signing up for T-ball and soccer and pool and all that. So it's a cool newsletter to get. But then you look at their Facebook page and they got like 4,500 people. It's like they're always the goal of like everybody loves Park and Rec, that it's all fun and smiley. But if you can get up to what they're doing, and we're kind of doing that with the newsletter.
Absolutely. This is fantastic, you guys. I mean, people wouldn't open it unless they were being rewarded. So that really speaks to the content and the fact that it's growing and continues to, it's amazing. In the email communication with Will and Anita and Amanda and myself, we also talked about just other things we had sort of discussed, like making sure that people know how to sign up for the My Monona newsletter, making sure that it's front and center on the city website, and making sure that it's just easy to find, because it had been a little buried before. So we're probably going to be working on that between now and our next meeting, and just making it easier, right? Anything else that I may be forgetting from our
Yeah, a couple of other things.
Yeah.
We discussed it in email about, so when I send out the email requesting entries, to ask to keep the entries more brief, not full-fledged articles, like maybe, 2 to 3 brief paragraphs, and then if there's a link to the fuller article, that's fine, because it's getting a little crowded. And one thing I wanted to discuss is we like, especially with Amanda and Will, is like the senior center and library send a pile of graphics to add each time. But I know we already link to their calendar. So I was wondering if in that email I send requesting submissions to specifically say to call out for the library and senior center, like if there's one particular event they want us to highlight and with a few sentences of promotion. 'Cause I also noticed in the last one at the very bottom, it got clipped. You know, like in my Gmail, it says view, you know, message clipped, click here to view entire message. So the I cut off the newsletter starting with July 4th communication. So you have to click and it opens it in another page, then you have to scroll down further and nobody's gonna do that. Need to keep, I think. Newsletter so it all fits within the body of the email, or you maybe make the graphics smaller, but I just want to also know how to handle the, you know, the senior center and library. They just, they'll send us like 6 or more graphics, but I don't know if that's needed because we link to their calendar and if.
Well, and that's a good point, Anita, and that might be a conversation, a bigger conversation with city staff who's submitting stuff that I need to add in. Because the senior center did reach out to me and say, hey, you know, we're sending you these 3 graphics. But and then they said the last couple we didn't see them in there. Fine, we understand a lot of people are sending you stuff, but we won't send it to you if you're not going to add it. We won't bother. And I was like, well, okay, send it this time. We'll try to figure out a way to make them small and to get them in there. And so I had sent the email before the newsletter went out, so I kind of tweaked it and just put 3 of them in a row there. But I think you're absolutely right. I think everybody loves the newsletter, and every department wants to get, you know, or not every department, but most departments want to get their stuff out there. And it's starting to become this, let's throw everything at them.
It's excellent. It's a terrible problem to have.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Wonderful
Except for the
problem.
writing. Except for
Yeah,
the writing.
yeah.
I think people need to realize that this is a click link to the website. So
Exactly.
put it on the website and then send us the link, and we'll put a little blurb about it so that it's not this whole full page press release almost.
Well, that's an interesting insight because, you know, being with the Friends of the Senior Center, it's interesting because Diane has a real protocol for her newsletter and what goes in it. And they include a monthly calendar and then something about each of the events that are going to be the big events that are going to be that month that are really community events. And then things about joining the, you know, coming to the senior center. So you're right. They have their own newsletter, and so does the library. But to bring everybody into the Monona newsletter, if you have kind of everything in there. So for instance, when I write something for the senior center newsletter, I'm telling you, like I did the thing for Kathy Thomas, you know, Diane just cuts it in half. So maybe a thought is that we only ask for a list of events, like community events versus, so for instance, they do yoga, you know, every certain day of the week. They do bingo every certain day of the week. That's in their calendar. But for instance, they're doing the big splash and swim thing, and a couple other June activities. And if we just give them a list, you know, like a document that says, please list your June activities, the date and the time and the name, and then we'll put a link to the website. Is that a reasonable limitation to, I don't understand.
That's a pretty good idea. And I think, you know, to your
We're getting graphics. What do we?
To your point, I think maybe even what I need to do is just have a conversation with the mayor and ask her how much editorial judgment or control do we have over it if we feel like this is too long and we're going to cut the article and we're going to like shrink it down and provide a link so that it's not taking so much room? If she's fine with that, then I don't think that's a problem. I think it's just mainly because it's coming from so many different departments, and she writes a good 3 or 4 usually every newsletter. So you're not going to just cut the mayor's what she wants in there, what they want in there. So I will reach out to her and just see if she's okay with some editorial decision making, because I think that's kind of what's needed. Is people are going to give us what they want, but then we need to be able to have some decision, especially Amanda and Anita for sure, to say this is too long, it needs to be cut, and put a link in.
Well, and I think it's easier rather than saying this is too long. I would say this is basically what Diane says to us is, this is what I need from you. This is what I want. And this is how much space we have. Rather than after you do it, after they send it, cutting. I'm trying to prevent you having to cut it. Now that's going to take a few submissions to, I think, get into that process flow. But I think if we start with the process flow, and maybe a form that goes to a set group of people each month, and then it says at the bottom, if you have no updating information for us this month, check here, ding, ding, and then
I have some questions. So Anita and Amanda, how much writing are you doing versus the percentage of writing you receive, which is good enough to publish as it is?
There's not really much in the way of writing. It's more kind of editing and
So you're short.
trimming.
You're editing, you're
Mhm.
cleaning language, spelling errors, you're shortening.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
and I send them that request for submissions email, in which I could say, put restrictions saying one entry per department or something like that.
I think it's also a question I have is that I think each department most every department has their own way of communicating out with the public. And so I see nothing wrong with keeping on the path we're on. You link back to their grand repository of information. So the My Monona e-newsletter like links back to parks, it links back to the senior center where people can see the full calendar of events, or the library. So I see nothing wrong with that. And do you think do you think the department heads realize that that's what's happening?
No, that's what I was saying. That's on me. And I did not mention it in the staff meeting on Monday, but
Okay.
I'll have to mention it not next Monday, but the Monday after, which might be semi-late. But either way, I'll make sure I start mentioning it more often. That hopefully they can be a little more succinct. But more importantly, some of the articles don't even have a link. Like they're saying this information, but there's no direct link that has the information they're talking about. Some of them don't have that, if I'm not mistaken, right? Not all of them are literally like.
That's right. Most, yeah. And
It's not, I don't think it needs to be a requirement that a link is provided, but it is a service that we provide. So, and if they want to give us a link, we'll gladly publish it, but it's not necessary. Let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on just coming right out and saying, here are the number of words that you are limited to, no more than 300. Done.
yeah. Yeah,
And we will truncate it if it is. I mean, just draw a hard line. And I mean, you could even take it as far as, here's a form that you can use to submit your text to us. And the form cuts it off at 300 letters or characters or words or whatever.
So Teresa, are we actually getting content? Anita, are we getting content from the senior center? Like, are you
No, they
getting,
just, no,
Okay.
nothing written. All I do is send like 6 graphics.
and what are the graphics?
Like
What's a
for
graphic?
like for the, we already linked to their calendar, which lists all their events, but they send us
Essentially flyers.
infographics
Wait.
for the events of the next, yeah, just images, graphics, promotional, like, like ads, and there's just no space in the newsletter to put that, but we do already
what-
link to their calendar.
I would suggest what we're changing from is a graphic, like maybe what they send you for the concerts is the full page ad thing, the flyer that they're using. And instead of that, in June, you want to list the 2 concerts we're having in June. Just the dates and say concerts at Winnequa Park, sponsored by the Friends of the Monona Senior Center or something. Because one of the things, Teresa, about the city newsletter is that's kind of the dream. And that is that lots of people look at that, all kinds of people. So
Right.
for instance, the senior newsletter basically goes to people that have signed up to be friends of the center. So there aren't, on that newsletter, there aren't a lot of young people. And so, for instance, we just hired a new assistant principal who lives in Monona, who has a 90-year-old father. And that's a person I want to see about the senior center events through. She may not be looking at the senior center. People that are older may not be looking at Jake's newsletters. I'm just looking for a list of events.
I
that
fully
they're
agree with
sponsored.
you. Yeah, I fully agree with you, Susan, that this is such an opportunity to get new people to cross over to these departments.
Yeah.
I mean, if each department has their own section, or at least they have the option of having
Good
content
idea.
in a section. Each department could have their own section. They don't have to submit anything. But if they'd like to, they get one section. And maybe they get one picture and they get a set number of characters. That's it. And they get a link back to more information. And maybe on the bottom of each section, you say for more information about the senior center, for more information about just direct people elsewhere. It just, yeah. I think we're doing that already. Right? Is it just a matter of making it clear to people what we're doing already? Is that kind of just all that we really need to do?
Yeah, I
I'm
guess so. Yeah,
surprised
tomorrow morning I send out the email request for submissions. So I was just
Yeah.
wondering if I can be more specific
I would
in saying
support
one
assertive
entry.
specific. I would support bullet points, and maybe in red font you say friendly reminder, like right in the
Mhm.
3 things. One, limit, link back to your, and say this is the opportunity for new people to see what you're up to, people who are not subscribed to your own newsletters, just link them back to your newsletter and your calendars. Yeah.
One, I think
I agree, Anita.
that I'll help, that I will definitely message is,
Yeah.
I think, yes, it can just go back to their website, but it also, they should be adding whatever they're putting on their newsletter for content needs to live on the website somewhere. So,
Their own.
yeah, right.
Yes,
Or-
not the newsletter. Right.
or the news flash right up
The
on top.
newsletter is not where it lives. I like that phrase. The newsletter is how you find it. Then right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening is a lot of them don't have a place where they live. They put it on their newsletter. There's no place that it actually lives. So you
Right.
get a link, and the link is a generic link to the page that has
Right.
no information about what they just read.
Right. Yeah.
And then can we request a word limit to
What do you
like
think
maybe
is a-
one
what do
image
you-
and one entry per department?
Yeah. What word
I don't know,
limit? Do you
Amanda,
think?
I know you do the assembly part. What do you
What are your
like
thoughts
1
on
to
the
2?
word limit, Anita? How many words? You're the boss. 200, 100, 300? I don't know.
Like for me, it's like when I don't really write for the newsletter, I reorganize things and I change text if we have to like kind of adjust the flow, but Anita does that part. I could see some benefit to having more consistency and less work on Anita's part to like rework things if everything was within a limit. But also, what if there's a month where things are shorter and we maybe would want two things from
Mhm.
So I don't know if the message is more like we will cut it down, but then you still have to do that, or if you put the limit in, then or you can request three
Yeah.
things. We may only put one.
Like, I mean, I think a lot of us are familiar with, a press release. If the newspaper's printed exactly as you've written it, that's a bonus. You expect them to take only bits and pieces from it, so I know
Mhm.
this is not as,
Okay.
I know this is not as, cutthroat as a, newspaper, but
Mhm.
it's certainly not the first time that this this
We're
happened.
getting there, just kidding.
We're getting there. We're getting to be front page here. Yeah, I mean, you could even say like, maybe strongly recommend less than 300 words, but we
Okay.
will be as flexible as possible and let them know like text will be cut, graphics will be cut if we don't have enough. And just
Okay.
maybe say, and just even, we have a wonderful problem. Everybody,
Mhm.
the newsletter is so popular. Your
Mhm.
events are getting in front of more people than we ever imagined. So we just need to
Mhm.
make changes, phrase it in the positive will be
Okay.
great. Yeah. Yeah. Because I know I can see, Anita, how it could feel sort of like, a little
Mhm.
heavy-handed, but you don't have to, yeah.
Sure.
Anything else, or should we talk about the My Monona website or more about the newsletter? Actually, I do have something about the newsletter. Will is familiar with this, but the Sustainability Committee, the other committee I chair, by the way, I have a 6:30 meeting tonight there, so I need to wrap this up promptly, but one of the things that I've been working on is to really do some fact finding on, where we are at as a community with the Monona Sustainability Plan. We've had this since 2015. A lot of work has gone into satisfying the goals outlined in that plan. We also have a resolution for 100% clean energy that we're working toward meeting by 2030. There's so many things that are going on in the city. Just last week, I was reminded that, our fire department got rid of all of the, carcinogenic, PFAS foam that's in firefighting foam. I mean, they just got rid of it already. Immediately. I mean, and that's an incredible story that we're just not telling. So, since, sustainability is definitely one of those things that we're all in it. We all want it. We're all already doing it, and I think citizens want to know that their government is leading by example. I would love to see a dedicated section of the newsletter just for sustainability, and it would be from any department. So theoretically, parks could be in there twice, right? Parks could be in the newsletter for upcoming events, but then parks may also want to share that they've planted so many pollinator friendly, plants. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? They could theoretically get 2 spots. What are other people's thoughts on that?
It's a good idea since like the library and senior center already have their own, robust newsletters. I like the idea of the sustainability having
Yeah, and we
more
just give, like,
publicity.
a corner, like
Yeah.
a fun fact, a real, like, an achievement, a celebration, some sort of a success story, did you know, whatever it might be, just the chief of police is talking about using tires on the squad cars that are made from soybeans.
Mhm.
They're less expensive, they're recyclable, they last longer. Why would we not want this? And it would make people proud to read that, our city
Yeah, that would be
leaders
cool.
are doing that,
And I've noticed that there's new trees being planted
Right.
at Winnequa Park. It'd be nice to have some
Right.
information because people have been asking me about that because they think I know things now because of the newsletter. So
Welcome to my world,
So
Anita.
if you have
Yeah,
info about that,
I don't know. Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, you must know. I'm like, no, I don't know. Yeah.
It's, Teresa, something that Will used to do that I really like that we're not doing anymore. And that just changes with who's chairing, which is a thought, and that is he would report out what they had done in the past month. We filmed this. I mean, it took 5 minutes. It was so well organized. It told you exactly what was being done. And it was right there in the minutes
I
so
love
that
it.
you could see it and back yourself up. And then if anybody, first of all, then the whole committee knew what Will had a feel for all the things that Will had done that month. And again, it sounds like you're kind of doing similar things in sustainability. It gives you minutes with that information, and you can pull it out and use it in the newsletter in
I
a
love
certain
that.
way, or and it was, again, it was something he just did extremely well. And I mean, he didn't say, okay, this kid and this kid and this kid were
Yeah.
filming the school board meetings. But he
Just
would
bullet
say, we
points.
filmed
Yeah.
one school board meeting, 2 concerts, added a new program on the radio.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, you were done,
Like quick stats at a glance, like yeah. Oh, that's
updated the
fantastic.
committee on the
Yeah.
work that he's done. And then you'd say at the end, we do not pay him enough for what he does.
The nefarious back reason for this. Yeah. Yeah. No, Susan, I think that's a fantastic idea. Fantastic. I really like that. I mean, I don't know if it would cause you extra work, Will, but I just think that's wonderful. And I mean, I just, what do people care about? People care about, government wasting my money. I'm paying your salary. I'm paying high taxes. Show me what I get for it. This is one small way that we can, demonstrate the work that's being done for the community.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. I mean, I can just make a list of what we've done in the last month, or what projects we've started, or
You probably have like a calendar anyway, right? For keeping track of everything, maybe just.
That's essentially what I did last time, is just went back
Yeah.
to the Google Calendar and just started writing down what was already,
Yeah.
what was on the calendar. There's some things, obviously, some meetings maybe that weren't on there, but yeah, or some discussions, but yeah.
That sounds great. All right, so we've got something that I wonder about the newsletter is when the email comes in my inbox, I sometimes miss it because I expect it to be sent from a different sender. Like is there a way that we can control that, or I don't know.
There should be a friendly from option. So you'd say like my Monona newsletter, and then it's the city. So it like has like that little name thing on it. Is that what you're talking about?
Let's see. So I just feel like if I search my inbox for my Monona e-newsletter, I should be able to find it, but I never can. I have to really.
Nona's not in the subject line anymore, but maybe it should be.
What is the way to search and find it? What's the phrase I search by?
So yeah, it says 20. The subject line is the year and the month, and then the from is city of Monona using a constant contact alias. So you can't search the My Monona because it's a JPEG header, but we don't call it the e-newsletter anywhere on that. It's not like that's like the behind the scenes name.
So if I type So I just want to make sure, Amanda, if I go to my search bar in my inbox and I type in City of Monona, I should find the newsletter.
That's who it's from.
Can we look into how we can allow searching on the phrase My Monona e-newsletter?
On the
Or-
website itself.
On the phrase My Monona or on the phrase e-news? I mean, we got to give people a way to find it better.
Yeah, longer, in all honesty, it slips past me too, because the subject line is
Exactly.
so short.
I miss it
Maybe,
sometimes, yeah.
maybe wouldn't hurt to put My Monona back in there, or.
Yeah. Who controls the subject line of the email?
I think I update it every time. So if we just, I mean, I don't remember what we were using before 2023, because I know we didn't put the year until 2023, and we didn't update at that time to add it in.
I'm
And
still not finding it when I search. I mean, what was the phrase that I search on?
It's City of Monona.
And I don't know if that's a constant contact thing. Like, I wonder if you type in constant contact, if it shows up.
I tried that also. When I search for City of Monona, I am finding my e-billing statement for my water. I'm finding other stuff. I'm not finding the newsletter. What are you searching on, Amanda?
I found it through City of Monona.
Okay.
Yeah, last year the subject line was the words My Monona November edition for each month, or My Monona August edition was the subject line we used last year.
Hmm. I mean, if I am the only person who feels this way, then I will adapt. But if anyone else feels that a different subject line, something searchable, a different sender, I would like to have a conversation about that maybe the next time we meet.
No,
I
I
just
feel the same way. I just hadn't
Okay.
gotten around to saying anything about it yet.
So we do call it the My Monona e-newsletter, or do we have a formal name for it? I feel like that's what I've always called it, but if I'm,
Yeah, I think we came up when we started, it was My Monona e-newsletter,
mhm,
just to go with the website.
correct.
Mhm.
So,
At the 2023 in the title, which this doesn't necessarily matter, but because that's the way it archives on the website. So the mayor emailed me and said, we need to make sure we doing it so that it archives right, because I guess the first episode or whatever, so for whatever reason, the way it was archiving wasn't in order. And then, and we were going into a new year, and so they couldn't tell what year was what. So
yeah. I mean, if anybody knows something that I don't know, please let me know. I'm still not finding it in my inbox. If you have a way to check whether I'm still subscribed, please do. I'm not going to be embarrassed if you tell me that I'm no longer subscribed. I just want to know the answer to this question, and so that it can be solved. So if we want to table it until next time and make a decision on, or do we want to just go ahead and make a decision right now on what the new subject line should be?
I'm fine just adding My Monona back in.
But My Monona e-newsletter, Or should it be My Monona newsletter, or what do we want to call it? Because everybody else has a newsletter. Does newsletter mean it's printed? Does it not mean it's printed? Newsletters can always be digital these days. You don't have to say you know,
Could just be My Monona News.
My Monona News. Yeah, that'd be fine. Joe says yes. I'm cool with that. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, San Damiano uses Friends of San Damiano News, May 2023.
Yeah, let's
So
just
some-
do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, July 2023. You know, would be our net, whatever. Yeah, let's just do that. So My Monona News. Yeah, that's great. Excellent. I'm writing it down. Made some big decisions here. There you go. All right. So My Monona News. And so the from field we don't control, but we can control the subject line.
We
Is it-
probably can control the from field too, but because we share the account with other people, I would say it's probably it would be
Yeah.
tedious for Will to send. So if we're
Yeah.
okay with City of Monona, probably
Yeah, let's just keep it. Yeah, no, good point, Amanda. Good point. So yeah, City of Monona, My Monona News. I love it. Okay. Woohoo. All right. So next thing on the agenda was just the updates to the website, but I think we've already sort of covered them because really the only updates, unless I'm missing something, really the only updates were related to the newsletter and trying to get people to find the newsletter more easily. Am I remembering that? Okay, great. Great. So in that case, we are on to new business. And sorry, I jumped ahead, but add a standing sustainability section. I'm glad to hear that folks want to do that. And I would be happy to submit a few starter stories. I wonder, Anita and Amanda, would it be something perhaps the next time that you send your email? You know, the email would sort of outline the new, recommendations, criteria, limitations and stuff like that. Would it also be possible to just say, new section? This is, and I'm happy to write the blurb, our opportunity to show citizens that the city is leading by example. Could that be included in your email that you send out?
Are you saying like a special call out that it's a new section in the newsletter?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
We
So its
don't
own
have any
section.
consistency on the sections, like we just change them, so I feel like it probably wouldn't be necessary to do a call out like that.
You can just send us the entry and
I would agree. I mean, Anita sends the email out and whoever responds and gives her information is who makes it on the newsletter. So we don't really have there's no structures per se in that any requirements. The mayor's never come down with any requirements for departments to submit anything.
Mhm.
I mentioned it in staff meetings. So yeah, I would agree. There's no necessary, unless we wanted to send an email to Thor or Brad to say, here's what we're doing, but yeah.
Well, here, please don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that we require anything of anyone.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm offering a new opportunity that people can take advantage of if they want to. And not just Brad and Thor, because sustainability is not something we do over here in this one committee. It's something we do everywhere through every department. It's a way of being, it has to be. Otherwise, we don't get to where we need to be.
Got it.
And when everybody realizes that when Parks sees that Landmarks has a sustainability success story, it helps, you know what I'm saying? When one person, it's the, not FOMO, but it's, we all have stories that are not being told,
No, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Parks and Rec, they're doing things that are
tons of stuff. Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I'd love to see in the newsletter rather than
Yeah.
just to the events and so forth.
Yeah, just a little something to make people feel good about what's
Yep.
happening.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's great to have those updates. And we've
Yeah.
talked about getting those from committees and departments. But we also have to bring that with the caution of, we just talked about limiting space. So I'm not sure how you want to integrate that. The other thing that's different for you right now, which you might want to think about,
Sure.
is having a just a short one-page newsletter that you do every month that's accessible, that just talks about the things. If you make that list in your meeting of all the things you've accomplished in that month or the major things you're working on,
But
that's something that's really great to read,
so
to put out.
Susan, what I'm trying to do is the opposite. We don't want the only people who are working on sustainability to be the sustainability committee. That's the problem. It is, the city of Monona has a goal to achieve 100% clean energy by the year 20, it's either 2030 or 40. How are we doing on that?
Right, again, we're
How are we doing
actually
on that? It's not
actually-
accomplishable.
we're actually saying the same things.
It's not,
I
but it's not,
totally agree with
but it,
you.
what I'm saying is it's not something one little committee of 6 volunteers who are
Right.
paid can, 6 volunteers cannot accomplish that. So already the city is working on that. And so I just don't know if citizens understand that the city is working on that. Parks, Public Works, the police, the fire, everybody's working on it already. And we have tremendous success stories to share with people.
So I agree.
Yeah.
That is a valid rationale to
Okay.
me, as a member of the committee, to give that committee, particularly with your goal, with what you're doing, more space. Space to really help connect with people
Yeah, yeah.
and get people to buy in.
So you're saying, like, as part of Anita's process, she would say, do you have sustainability stories? We're looking for anyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's
wasn't
not-
following until that moment, because I also was seeing what Susan was saying was make a document or something that's
No.
posted and have it
It's
click
not
on.
right. So
Yeah.
it's not a report from the sustainability committee, which could
Yeah.
go away. The sustainability committee could go away. Think about it. I mean, why? I mean, do we need a committee?
Right.
It's not the job of a committee. It is the job of a community. So yes, Amanda, exactly what you're saying. If Anita is already planning on changing up her monthly email so that it sort of clarifies some of our new requests, I would love it if it also included a little phrase about a new section where we would like to start highlighting the success stories that have already happened in every department.
Yeah, how would you like?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have the
Yeah.
I have the
Yes.
draft of the email in front of me
Awesome.
now. So what would you like like that
Oh,
to
it
say?
hasn't yet been sent yet?
I send it out tomorrow morning or maybe
Oh.
even this evening.
Fantastic.
If you have some,
Can I send you something tomorrow
Sure.
morning or tonight?
Sure.
Because I'll just give you like a teeny tiny little small logo that won't
Mhm.
take up much room.
Okay, all right.
And I'm also wondering, so if we're gonna limit submissions, are you trying to reduce the overall size of the newsletter, or are you trying to reduce and have consistency in the size of each submission to the newsletter, or both? I don't know.
I guess maybe more the overall, I mean, the longer articles are fine, you know, the mayor always has a few
Yeah,
and so forth. It's more the overwhelm has been more with, you know, all the library graphics and the senior center.
yeah.
Then that I feel bad that Will and Amanda have to take the time to put them on like on a separate web page, and they're probably not even being
Oh, yeah,
looked at anyway, when we can just link to the calendar. And the, like Gmail and so forth, we'll trim the newsletter if it's too long and people aren't gonna see, all the work that went into it. So, but there's just so the, it's, yeah,
I'm starting to realize that I've been out of the loop regarding the amount of work that you've been doing. So I would like to understand better the work that you're doing, Amanda and Anita, and even Will. I mean, I was under the impression that people are submitting stuff and you're more or less just printing it. I didn't realize that you were having to save graphics in a different way or somewhere else, or I just
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
that that's your responsibility.
that burden falls more on Amanda and Will as far as that does a design piece of it with the graphics. So I know Will more recently had the idea to put them like on a separate web page, but should we even bother with that when we can just link to
No.
their calendar?
No, I wouldn't
Yeah,
bother with it. No.
Well, the issue is not all the graphics we're given actually has a place on the calendar either. Like if the new senior center gives us a graphic, it's not guaranteed that that's on
Right.
their calendar.
Exactly. So we don't.
So,
We
so
don't-
what I'm saying is giving them a link to the calendar isn't necessarily covering all the events that they want to highlight, because it's not on the calendar.
I'm gonna ask for a motion. Is there a motion on the table to continue this conversation outside of our normal monthly meeting in a work group so that we can get through the agenda tonight?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And for now, I'll just add a sentence to the email saying
yeah,
that due to space limitations, we may have to edit the entries and just keep it at that for now. And we could add the sustainability part in next month's request too, so you're not rushing to have to get something to me tomorrow morning.
I would love to get something to you immediately, but and I will, as I said, I
Okay.
would and I will.
Yeah.
But is it okay if we wrap up the conversation about the newsletter and then pick it up in a subgroup? Yeah, because I
That
just,
would be,
yeah,
I think that's a wonderful idea. And the other piece that you just brought to us is maybe, and we do this at the senior center, we make it for a little while, just like the radio was taking over all the conversations and we weren't getting any of the video.
right.
We make a committee to support Anita and Amanda, add a couple people. And Katie has so much expertise in this area. We make a committee so that, because the newsletter is new. I mean, somebody just said to Will a few years ago, we need a newsletter, you're going to do this. And at that time, the media committee was fairly apprehensive about dumping more stuff in Will's lap. So I would say a little bit of history, a little bit of process, and maybe putting a thing in place that enhances and supports Anita and Amanda. And I would make the motion to have that discussion in the July.
Okay.
meeting.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right. So in July, we'll be talking about then maybe getting a work group together that we can show some support for Amanda and Anita. And I would suggest that the people on the work group do not need to be official members of this committee.
Yeah,
There are people that apply to be part of city committees all the time. And if there are no vacancies, because the number of people that are allowed to be on a committee is determined by city ordinance. And if we've already got the maximum numbers, we're kind of passing up all that amazing, possible volunteer help. So I can get a list from Leah. I've done this with sustainability before, and I can get a list of people who have applied to be on this committee. And we can look through those and see if maybe we can get some volunteers to help out. If that's something that you think would be helpful. I also know that too many cooks can sort of make your job, there's a balance. So you just I want you to feel comfortable expressing your preferences.
From my standpoint, the newsletter is not a burden and it is
Okay.
a repeatable volunteer task that I am very
Okay.
good at and fast with.
Okay.
I like that it's a set thing. But if there's other things to discuss, I'm happy to go down the subcommittee path.
Well, that's really important to hear. Maybe we don't need a subcommittee.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Is that a decision? Have we decided that we don't need a subcommittee and Amanda and Anita are good with things? Or what do you think, Anita? Would you?
Yeah,
need
I'm good
me
with
over?
things.
You're good with,
It was
okay.
just, yeah, and you know, Will and Amanda and I could just always meet amongst ourselves
Okay.
on an ad hoc basis if we ever wanted to.
Would
you
you
know.
mind, I would love to be included in your meetings. I don't want to be out of touch with
Mhm.
what you're doing. Thanks.
Yeah, if we do that, sure.
Yeah, if you do that, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Wonderful, okay, so next thing on the agenda, and I'm sorry to be kind of pushing us moving forward, I do have a meeting at 6:30 I need to be at, so. But it's a Zoom meeting, so I can just stand right here and go to that meeting. In the packet, there was, under new business 6B, there was just something that I thought you might be interested in taking a look at. And I don't expect there to be a lot of conversation about this evening. I just wanted you to be aware of it. That some time ago, there was a consultant that did put together some recommendations for communications in the city. I know that it is one of the priorities that the mayor has to sort of streamline communications and make things a little better and predictable and consistent and things like that, perhaps more frequent, instead of just talking, anyway, you know where I'm going with this. So there are things that simply are not the responsibility of the Community Media Committee. I fully understand that. But as you look through this document, maybe there are a few things that we could help with. You never know. So I'm not going to read it to you, but just take a peek at that in your spare time. Some of the things, and maybe we'll come back and talk about it at our next couple of meetings. Bill Graff couldn't be here tonight, and he's one of our committee members, and he had some particular interest in, digging into this a little bit, and I'm sure he'll have some great ideas to share with us at our next meeting. But it's just kind of interesting what came out of that study. And one of the things that I thought really rang true for me was this concept that sometimes when people do business in a small environment, they tell themselves that they don't need policies, procedures. They tell themselves that they don't need automation and things like that, because after all, we're small. And what happens is those folks in a small environment end up working harder than people in the larger environments who do have all those procedures in place. In my job, this happens all the time in district attorney offices. You get a DA office like Barron County, whatever the county might be, Florence, Price, doing everything manually, working their buns off because they have talked themselves into believing that they are small and they don't need these things. And I mean, I think that procedures, policies, uniformity, stuff like that can help anybody. Maggie Baum was the consultant that was hired to put together this document. She's a Monona resident. She lives right here in town. It's kind of nice, so I'm sure that I don't suggest that we reach out to her. I don't think that's our place. But I just wanted to say that it's just kind of nice that a local person was involved. On page 3, talks about all those little fun facts of all the different things that we have, right? All the different disparate systems. Not that we're going to change any of that. It just lays out some of the challenges that we have. So again, I just thought it might be of interest to you to sort of, see what's happening, see what's been collected, and maybe get some ideas. before our time tonight, if you did have some time to look that over, I know that it was sent a few days ago, but if you did have some time to look that over, is there anything that stood out to you?
I haven't looked at it yet, to be
Okay,
honest.
okay, that's okay. It's a big document.
The only
Um,
thing I guess I could say that the two cities of the younger people, just because I'm definitely part of the younger people kind of coming in, so that I know I'm interested in that. I just haven't read it in detail yet.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I couldn't even share the Monona Go app stuff because I'm the only person in my network, like out of my friend group, who live, in Monona.
yeah,
I have kids yet, so I'm not using the app, personally.
yeah, right. So as we look through it, there might be something that we think, oh, maybe community media has a place here. Maybe there's a way that we can engage with this list of recommendations. Really, it will be up to the mayor and the new city administrator to put into place communication protocols and policies, but we have a nice group here of people with some good professional expertise in the field. Maybe there are suggestions here.
But one thing we could do is at the July meeting,
Mhm.
basically what you'll see in your table of contents is your overview of the process,
Yeah.
key findings, challenges, and opportunities. Okay, so that's just read that.
Yeah.
Recommendations and suggested action items, and
Right.
let's just look at those 5 things. My thought is, and Will can help us with this, when Andy Hagan was here, they just turned to him and said, you're going to do the website. And back then, that wasn't in the job description. I mean, so again, it's looking at the strategic plan that we have, and then and maybe giving a copy of that to each of the members gives helpful background. But again, streamline the city's website and social media presence. That it's been how many years since 2018? That's
Yeah.
dramatically changed since 2018. And again, Maggie has been around, and she might very well be willing to just kind of read through this and say, yeah, I think you've moved forward, or not. She's been on committees and things, so
Yeah.
she might be very comfortable doing that. It might be worth an ask, but I think if we just take looking at suggested action items and or suggested next steps, just listing those out, Will can even tell you, we do have a website, we have a social media presence. Do we still want to work on that? And then Will say, this is where you are, get your baseline. And then, but that's more like a strategic planning process, and so maybe we want to allocate like half of a meeting to look at that sometime. It's just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, here's where I'm coming with this. There was a time sort of at the beginning of everybody, when I first came on the committee, where we were saying things like, maybe there's more community media could be doing. Let's think of what else we could do, and so this just came on my radar, and I thought, why not just have a look at it? Again, I don't think much of this is out of our, we would be swimming outside of our lane if we were to jump in. This is city administrator, this is the mayor that really need to spearhead this. However, it doesn't hurt for us to take a look at it. Maybe ideas would come up. And then Susan, I completely agree with you that it's an older document and work has been done since it was formed, since the document was published. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even sure we had a newsletter
Back then. Yeah.
2018. No, see, again, that's, I mean, the webpage, the newsletter, all of that has been added to Will's umbrella.
Yeah,
So I
Right.
think there's always a caution here in
Yes.
terms of, how to staff that. And
Right.
Will has had to add staff to be able to meet those pieces, I think.
Mhm. And you never know, once the new city administrator is in place, maybe that person would, just have their own sort of communication procedures and protocols that they want to put in place. Who knows? It
Right.
is interesting to see like each department has their own Facebook page, but we don't really have one City of Monona Facebook page, right? I mean, that's kind of funny, that's interesting, so just little stuff like that,
I agree.
yeah. So excellent. Okay.
Similar to having the newsletter now.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. All right. But just thought that you'd find that interesting. Just kind of like I said, an old document, but perhaps still relevant. And that brings us to the end. Well, number 7, reports. Will, I don't know if you have anything for under that section.
Yeah. I mean, and we just finished school today. Some of the big projects this summer that we're already working on, we reached out to the Monona Eastside Business Alliance and went to their initial luncheon where Christine Welker was Welker, I think it's Welker, was introduced as, because she's the new executive director. We presented and offered a 1 minute to 1.5 minute business profile video for members of MESBA. And right now, next week and the following week, we are going to be shooting those videos, interviews, and some video footage of these businesses. And right now we have 13 businesses that have signed up. So over a 2-week period, we're gonna do the recording of 13 businesses. So that'll take us, that'll be a good summer project, probably a chunk of the summer. We just met with the police department. They have a July 4th PSA they want to get out, very similar to the one they did for the parade, kind of saying here's some heightened safety measures we're going to be doing, so don't be alarmed. They also have some ideas about getting some training footage, getting some other PSAs, video PSAs out about lock it up, the cars, driving safety and parking for students. And we met with the Parks and Rec department. They have some onboarding training videos they want to do for their summer staff of just here's where the dishwasher is, here's how we do this, here's how we position this, here's where all this stuff goes, here's where you can find all the games and toys. And we do songs and skits, and we want to record some of them so that they can learn them, so they can sing them and do skits with the kids. So a handful of videos for them as well. This is all kind of more of a summer projects. I think we can do some of this over the school year, but the one thing we stress is when the school year starts, it gets a little harder to be more efficient and timely with these type of things, because we get.
Yeah.
But these are our summer projects, and we also got awarded money from the Tourism Commission to attend a number of events this summer, and for promotional video and photo purposes, to supply to Monona Eastside Business Alliance for their promotional material, whether that's their newsletter or website or a flyer or whatever she might be putting together. Since the last director left, they just don't have anything. Some things were lost, some things were gone, some computers have crashed, and so she just kind of started with not much. So that's good. So we were able to secure some money to cover those costs, even though it's a lot of what we would do perhaps maybe anyway, because it's promoting our city, except it's we do more documenting. That's kind of been our role. So this will be a little exciting and a little different, which is why I wanted to receive some money back. It's a little more intense to do more promotional video shooting and promotional still photography. You're not just walking around shooting photos or
Yeah.
walking video. You gotta do it right. Got to talk to people and maybe pose them, maybe talk to the band or in the venue like San Damiano and the Schluter, and make sure you're in places that are going to get good photos and things. What can be a real slow summer or a relaxing summer is quickly turned into a number of and then come second week of August, we'll start getting some requests from the school administration, and the football season will start.
Right. So Will, if I understood you correctly, the way I interpreted what you're saying is you're almost starting a season of like video services
Yes.
that you're offering.
Yep. This is the time that we can do those
Yep.
things.
So free of charge, you're out there taking short videos of people, and then city leaderships, and you're loading them up to Monona Go. Is that what I'm also assuming here, or not?
Well, for the Monona Eastside Business Alliance
Yeah,
promotional material, that will just be on our server, and then we can supply that footage.
right, exactly.
We also, part of that was also to make a 30-second quick kind of travel Wisconsin social media video. If you've seen
Okay.
those are
Yep.
pretty good. So produce something like that for her and for Mesbah.
Mhm.
And that footage would just live on our server. The photos we would, crop and, color correct, all those things, and then give them to her, but we'd also have access to them as well.
Okay,
The training videos for the police and the training videos for the Parks and Recreation, those are, essentially what we would like to try to do for the city, to provide service to the city, both internally and kind of externally. So that's nice, and that's usually the summer when we have time to get into that. And then the business profiles, that's free of service, and those would go up on Monona Go. They would go up on our YouTube page, and hopefully she would put all those business profile videos on her webpage as well, to say, look at all these businesses in Monona.
I was wondering about that. So Monona Go is a municipal. Is there a conflict if we feature businesses on Monona Go? The news story.
I mean, the YouTube channel
Yeah.
is essentially a municipal as well.
Yeah,
The other issue is that, Teresa, that you're also touching on is when Christie did the chamber, it wasn't the Monona Chamber anymore. So these are not just Monona businesses. They're
Right.
expanded significantly east side businesses. So I don't know in terms of how you want the app to function,
right.
how that relates. That may need, you and Will may want to have more discussion on that.
Yeah, I wonder about that myself. Yeah, it feels like we're walking a line here of
We could put them under a category called Monona Eastside Business Alliance, and then just put them in there. And
make it very clear that it's a separate, we're not advertising, we're not advocating, we're not supporting, we're not showing favoritism.
these are members of the Monona Eastside Business Alliance. We're not saying we like them or we
Sure,
suggest them. It's
not
just
endorsing them, right?
But I mean, it's a valid point as well. I mean, I don't know. I suppose I don't really see an issue with it, but there's always somebody out there that might see an issue with it. The fact that we offer it for free, and that if anybody would get a hold of us, we'd say, yeah, we'll do it at our next chunk, right? Like, it's not just something we're going to do anytime somebody gets a hold of us and then schedule it. It's going to have to be like, okay, we're scheduling our next chunk, maybe at the end of the summer where we record some more, but if we don't have time, we can't. So then maybe it'll be during Christmas break that we do another chunk. We're not going to deny anybody. It just might not be in the time frame that they like. We're just trying to promote Monona businesses. But yes, because we are promoting Monona East Side Business Alliance businesses. They are not all in Monona. So. But we're also not excluding anybody, right? So at the same time that somebody might be like, oh, well, you're doing that for them. We'll do it for you too. You know, these are members. You become a member of MESBA and you can get a video. Not saying you'll get it tomorrow, but you'll get one.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's not like an on-demand service where a business calls you and you jump and go provide something to them. This is like driven by Monona Community Media. It's an overture. It's a, hey, we are going to try this between these dates and these dates. If you would like to be a part of it, here's what you got to do. That's kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, what we did
Okay.
this time is I sent out a sign up genius and gave them the link and
Right.
anybody could sign up, and we filled up 80% of the slots, and we made the slots. We said, here's when we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And that was it. We didn't have it be, run forever. It was like these 2 weeks,
Right,
10 to noon, 2 to 4.
right.
Well, and Teresa, I think one thing at the committee, so I think it's great that Will is reaching out into the community and getting, providing these services. And I mean, that's a great thing. It's like the newsletter. I think as a committee, knowing that this work is being done,
Mhm.
we haven't really discussed it.
Yeah,
And I don't know exactly, it might be helpful for the committee to have a better understanding of how that fits with. What I don't want to happen is the city come back and say, that's not within.
yeah,
So if you and Will would just
yeah.
make sure everybody's comfortable with that, then we
Mayor
can
knows.
figure out how we want to put it forward.
The mayor is aware, so if that helps.
Oh, that
Okay.
does help.
So
That
the
does
mayor
help.
says it's okay to do it.
She was in that staff meeting.
Okay.
hung out
Okay.
after you, and I told everybody, here's what we're doing, and
Okay,
she shook
Great.
her head and said, oh, and that's all the last I heard of it. So I took it as she didn't have a problem with it.
okay.
That's great. That's good to
Alright.
know.
I mean, I know that there's a desire, some folks have said, well, wouldn't it be nice if, I've heard from some people that it would be nice if we sort of did more to create more of a welcoming business environment, work with our businesses. I'm reminded of that now, having this conversation.
Which is kind of how I
Yeah.
promote staff and the mayor, like, well, this is what we're doing to reach
Yeah.
out to businesses and say, we care about you and here's what
Yeah.
we're offering.
We're glad you're here and we're going to try to support you. And yeah.
Problem
And
is, it happens to be some,
just for old history, we used to have a family attraction committee.
I was just talking about someone that was just so funny. Yeah,
and we do have 8 minutes, just so you know.
we do. Is there any topic that people would like to table or make sure it gets on next month's agenda? I know we did already name a few things. The communications plan from Maggie, just digging, but in September, we'll be digging more into the newsletter statistics. Be changing from the newsletter, be changing the subject line to include the My Monona News and the date.
Well, and just remember, August and September, we'll start the budgeting process.
Yeah, anything off the top of your head?
No, I just mean that will probably take up a chunk of our
Yes, it will.
time at the committee.
Yes, it will. Okay. So Will's doing some MESBA videos. I'm gonna email Anita 3 sentences about the sustainability section and a little teeny graphic. The website, mymonona.com. We'll continue to work on that between meetings to see what changes might happen. Tourism gave community media a nice little bit of money. That's wonderful. And we should look for the videos from the police and videos from parks on Monona Go. We talked about a lot of stuff, you guys. Great meeting. Really great meeting. this committee is doing wonderful things. It's really fun.
Yes, the newsletter problem, that's a great problem to have, like you
Yeah,
said. We're just
yeah.
going through growing pains. It's so successful.
Exactly,
that people-
exactly.
We have to tweak
And-
it.
You know, and indeed, if you just phrase it that way, people will understand, you know, we're not punishing anybody, we're just, you know, there you go. All right, well, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there anything anyone else wishes to add? Dave, you've been sort of quiet a little bit. I want to make sure you've got your chance to be heard. But if you don't want to, that's okay too. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Amanda. All
I
in-
couldn't get my my mute off, but I'm here.
You're here. All right, all in favor?
Good
of
meeting.
adjourning?
Aye.
Okay, aye, 6:24, adjourned at 6:24. Thank you, everybody.